Smith attorney. Joey McCutchen's on the line. Joey, how are you this morning?
Morning. Doing good, Paul. Thank you.
I wanted to have you on, talk a little bit more about this Marshall's Museum. What's the latest update on this? I know we got a special election coming up to raise the taxes on the citizens of Fort Smith.
Yep, we got a election coming up Tuesday. We're in early voting now. I'm really pleased from the no standpoint that we're having a lot of turnout. People are turning out, and I think that's good news. I think people see this. You know, already, Paul, cash out the door of over $11,300,000 before dirt was turned on this project. You know, already over $3.3 million in payroll expenses, and that's fine when it was billed as a private venture. But now that this Public Facilities Board, i.e., the citizens of Fort Smith, Arkansas, are going to be responsible for the debts if the museum fails, that changes the circumstances. You know, drastically.
No doubt. I'm seeing here on Facebook. Let's see. This was back on March the 4th, 3 days ago. The Marshall's Museum, you wrote, will be built with or without passage of their unfair sales tax. Otherwise, we've been scammed out of Marshall Museum payroll and consulting fees combined of over $10 million. Is that $10 million, Joey? Before dirt was
over $10 million. You know. We've looked at the financial statements. We've FOIA'd the financial statements, expenses that they designate as expenses, and that's payroll of over $3 million. That's professional services of $1.4 million, more than that now. Marketing and advertising of over $300,000, and on and on. That's over $6 million right there. But what we also see are these consulting fees, which are buried. And again, it may be just an accounting bill. I'm not an accountant, so I don't know. But these consulting fees are buried in what is called in construction in progress. And the normal person like me, unless I've had an accountant like I have look at this stuff, you're thinking, what are these construction in progress costs? Well, what we see is that there's over $4.9 million, it looks like, in consulting fees. For example, design consultants. Over $2 million have already been spent in design consultants. But one thing that you just mentioned, this museum is going to be built with or without taxpayer dollars. I mean, they've already spent over $11 million on expenses before dirt was turned. They've gotten $8 million in general improvement fund money or other state grants. $8.3 million. You know, Fort Smith's already kicked in $300,000. Sebastian County's kicked in $230,000. And now they want $15 million on the backs of taxpayers in Fort Smith who are getting hit with huge utility bills. I mean, there's another scandal in Fort Smith. These water bills that Fort Smith residents are getting water bills of $300 a month. I mean, one after another. You know, we have other priorities in Fort Smith. Let the Marshall's Museum is going to be here. I support the Marshall's Museum. I just don't. It's a matter of who pays for it.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, there are people who are listening right now on KFPW 96.7 FM, 1230 AM, The Marshall, out of Fort Smith, the straight talker out of Fort Smith. So, I mean, you know, obviously the history there is rich because, you know, we have an affiliate there that's kind enough to carry the show, and, you know, the name is The Marshall. We understand that. But the fact of the matter is, from what I understand, Joey, this was sold to the people that this was going to be a private endeavor. And yet, I think if anything, this special election has kind of brought to the forefront the fact that there has been a lot of taxpayer money that's already been given to this Marshall's Museum plan.
A ton of taxpayer money, a ton. I mean, you know, I'm looking at $8.3 million in general improvement fund money. As I said, $300,000 from the city of Fort Smith, $230,000 from Sebastian County. You know, Fort Smith has one of the highest sales tax rates in the state right now. This will bump it over 10%. You know, hey, and I love the Fort Smith Boys and Girls Club. They're trying to raise money for Hunts Park, where our kids play football.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll go to the board and ask them if they'll create a public facilities board. Let's just do that publicly too. Where does this end, Paul? Where does this end? They'll do a favor for the Marshals Museum. Are they going to do one for my passion, the Fort Smith Boys and Girls Club?
Yeah.
What about your passion of the day? Let the taxpayers, let's increase the sales tax up to 20%. It's just temporary, right? Temporary. We're going to own that property. Taxpayers of Fort Smith, through this Public Facilities Board. Public Facilities Board has no financial responsibility, although they're going to own the property. What?
Yeah, and
that makes no sense.
And from the very beginning, we started covering this issue. There's a lot of real estate around there that's owned by other individuals who are all for this because they want their property values to go up. Is that correct?
Yeah, downtown developers are behind this. They're the Wizard of Oz that are pulling all the strings here, and they need to pay for it. But they some of them have given a lot of money, but most of them haven't. And they need to pay for it. They don't need to put this on the backs of the taxpayers of Fort Smith. We just had the crisis called the River Valley Sports Complex, where a state senator got a special deal. Again, it smelled too. The Fort Smith Board of Directors ramrodded that through, and now we're paying the consequences. We've got a River Valley Sports Complex that is sitting barren because of a special deal cut, and they didn't listen to us then. And will they listen to us now? I think the voters are going to come out and
Senator Jake Files is paying the consequences too because he's in jail. So there's that.
That is true.
We need to remind people of that. Well, Joey, I appreciate it. Early voting's going on right now in Fort Smith. So if you don't want your taxes, if you're in Fort Smith, you don't want your taxes to go up, your sales taxes, then go and vote no. And the final vote will be this coming Tuesday.
That's right. And just remember, this isn't about whether the museum is going to be built. This is about who's going to pay for it, period. They've already constructed, the museum has already been being constructed. They've already spent $2 million on exhibit design consulting fees. Come on, the museum's coming to Fort Smith. I support the museum. The taxpayers shouldn't pay any more.
Joey McCutchen, Fort Smith attorney.